and that his body laid out before them. But again, strangely enough, it hadn't decomposed naturally. Secrets behind closed doors. Houses, homes, or, as we are reliably informed in the case of an Englishman, his castle. It's a place to gather, to invite others. It's a sanctuary, a place of safety. Their walls shield us from the outside world, while their windows allow us to glance into the comings and goings of the street outside. For centuries, houses have had secret places incorporated within them, behind the walls and panelling, under the floorboards, and up into the attics. Now, these little places of sanctuary were never more important than in Tudor times, when the authorities decided they were going to stamp down on Catholicism. These places, known as priest holes, were created so the priests of the day could carry out their communion and then hide should the authorities come looking for them. But these places have not been left behind in our history. Was this the Tudors' way of consenting phrogging? But what is phrogging? It's the name given to parasitic guests living in your house without the owner actually knowing. But it isn't the house itself that gives up this secret, no. It's the guests themselves. It's the coffee cup moved in the kitchen. It was the crumbs on the coffee table that were swept clean before you left. Toothpaste tubes squeezed where they were not before. That's what gives up the secret. Now, famous examples of this, you could say, are when a lady lived under the bed of George Michael for a period of 4 months. And in Japan, a man had somebody living in his closet for a period of 1 year before they were discovered. Jumping forward several centuries, and houses still provided secret refuge for actual individuals or entire families that were hiding away from the governing authorities. One of the most famous ones was a house in Amsterdam, where the young diarist Anne Frank sheltered, along with her family and others. Anne's father received papers stating that Anne's sister had actually been called to go to a labour camp. Anne's father decided it wasn't going to happen for his family, and certainly not his daughter. So he took them to an annex loft space above his office, and he hid there. The house again held its secret for a period, an actual astonishing time of 761 days, until, sadly, they were eventually discovered by the Nazi Party. Houses hide their secrets well, from deep down into their cellars, rising through all levels, finishing in their loft space. Screams and cries for help, held captive within the very masonry itself. I think you can therefore agree that not all properties, not all dwellings offer a safe refuge, and that some were constructed with pure evil in mind. Now, there is one such dwelling, one dwelling that straddles the line between fact and fiction, and it was given the name of the Murder Castle. This infamous building was actually the brainchild of a man called H.H.Holmes. But just like the house H.H. Holmes constructed, it having many fronts, So did H.H.Holmes, because he wasn't originally called that. His name was actually Herman Webster Mugget, but he changed it after he arrived in Chicago in 1886. Possibly to start afresh, to give himself a clean sheet, because he had, up until this point, a history of grave robbing, selling the corpses to medical school, swindling insurance companies. He was actually a bigamist as well. Holmes, as we will refer to him, started to build his wicked abode in 1887, as he told investors that his intention was to have a 3-storey building with commercial venues at the bottom, with the remaining 2 stories as a hotel, to cater for people that would be attending the World Fair in 1897. Holmes was eventually arrested, and the press of the day stirred up a tempest of a storm of accusations, saying that Holmes had murdered the tourists who had come to the World Fair, and actually sold their bodies to medical schools, even their very skeletons. And after all, this was swallowed because, quite simply, he did have previous with this type of activity, or so it was said. Then the press did what could be described as putting the final nail in his coffin. They actually printed a proposed plan of his abode, and at this point it was the press that actually called it a murder castle. Within its construction, he had chutes built that ran between the floors, allowing Holmes to supposedly be able to deliver a dead body right into the basement, where he had actually built the crematorium. Rooms had no windows in, staircases ran aimlessly around to no fixed point. It was also said that some rooms acted like gas chambers with secret nozzles coming through the walls. And it was also said that some of the doors to these rooms could only be locked from the outside. Holmes was actually executed in 1886, but again, interestingly enough, it was only for one murder. Now he himself, he did confess to over 21, and some people at the time were putting rumours out and guessing that he'd committed over 200. But once Holmes knew his fate, he actually requested that his casket was to be encased in concrete and then actually buried beneath the waterline, so that nobody could actually steal his body and sell it potentially to a medical college. But again, the house, or in this case, the murder castle, did not give its secrets up. Because strangely enough, the day after Holmes was arrested, it was burned by a mysterious arsonist. But whatever secrets this murder castle did hold were sanitised by the ravaging flames and cast away in the black plumes of smoke over Chicago. As to how much the claims as to why the house was constructed this way and its actual intention are true will be debated for many years to come. But I think there are 2 things that we can actually say for definite. Firstly, Holmes, like the building he created, was a man of mystique, a man of mystery, of intrigue and rumour. A man with as many sides to his personality as rooms that the murder castle itself contained. There were actually calls that Holmes himself had escaped execution. And this bounced along the rumour mill for years, until in 2017 permission was given to actually exhume Holmes. And when they did so and they knocked all the concrete away, they found that he hadn't actually evaded execution and that his body laid out before them. But again, strangely enough, it hadn't decomposed naturally. Does the account of this murder castle, reported to us from within the pages of the press, feed the creativity of our minds and our interest in the macabre? Were the words laid down by the reporter in the pages of the press, were they actually instructional words, telling us how to paint the colourful images on the canvases that could then be hung in the galleries of our imagination? Even when a house stands empty, its rooms unoccupied, its structure starting to crumble, the tiles on the roof fatigued over age and they slip back in their defence against the rain, the window panes shattered, arrowhead shards lying within the carpet of brown decaying leaves, a carpet that has been delivered and fitted by an autumn storm. Its walls now decorated with a tapestry of psychedelic graffiti. The rooms furnished with discarded fast food boxes and junk mail. Its very light fittings now dull and empty as they swing to the tune of the conquering wind. This house stands in line, supported by the shouldering terraced houses, as conspicuous as a decaying tooth in a Hollywood smile. But these houses still draw our attention as we walk past. The fireplaces may be dull and empty, but they still spark our imagination and ignite the endless possibilities of scenes that have been played out by the once living residents. But are these rooms, staircases and hallways, even in death, still occupied by those that are unwilling to vacate? Do you glimpse these spiritual squatters as their shadow-like form appears at the window, as they look out into a society that they've never been a part of, nor can they understand? These are the thoughts that dwell in your mind as you unknowingly hasten your pace towards your front door, your home, your safe place, your sanctuary. As you yourself close your front door behind you, metaphorically raising your drawbridge. You hear the footsteps of another passing, but these are drowned out by the engine noise of a commuting car. But take comfort in these words. Nobody truly knows what goes on behind closed doors. Well, that's another one in the can from Newmount Films. But it just leaves us with one thing left to do, and that's actually to say a big heartfelt thank you to all those people that have subscribed to our YouTube channel. It's a massive encouragement for us. It helps us. We know that what we're producing is being enjoyed. So for those that haven't as yet, please could you just take that 1 second to hit that subscribe button. So again, thank you. See you again soon.